Right. Hello, hello. Welcome to Speaking of the Village. My name is Nicole Harlow. I am here with Joshua Liston Zawadi, and I'm so excited about this conversation because just every time I talk to you, Josh, like nuggets of wisdom are just dropped. More so because what you do, unfortunately, is so rare, and the perspectives that you bring are definitely not conversations that I typically have with the male gender. But I love it, and I'm super excited to just announce. I'm gonna do it right now. Josh is one of our founding fathers for the PRC Impact Alliance, which is innovative male partners advocating for collaborative transformation. Many other founding fathers. We got off a call earlier today when we're recording this. I'm just super excited for this leg of the PRC to really start to shine through. And Josh does way, way, way more than just being part of our Impact Alliance, but I'll let him discuss all those awesome things that he's doing. And just a kudos to the woman who connected us. Ashara is our Wisconsin state liaison for the PRC. So just, I love to share examples of how the collaborative really allows us to expand our network and support more moms, non-birthing people, birthing people, families, partners, babies, you name it. We get to reach more just by collaborating and connecting with other people. Without further ado, Josh, if you want to just tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got here, and then we'll just have a conversation.
How y'all doing? My name is Joshua Liston Zawadi. I am also known in these streets as a dad doula. I am a certified full spectrum holistic doula, specializing my talents and gifts in helping non-birthing people and or men navigate everything from prenatal to postpartum and fatherhood afterwards. So I am a fatherhood advocate. I am a doula, a coach. I do it all. Ultimately, my job is to utilize non-birthing people, men, patriarchy as a weapon towards maternal health versus an obstacle that we have to hurdle. That's my job.
Love that. And I always in my brain whenever I think of you and when we talk about this conversation, I think of just the sheer passion you have with it, and I appreciate that so much. And I know you were a speaker on our virtual symposium not too long ago, and I kind of put the question out there, right? Do you feel more heard in the birthing room, do you think, because you're a man, because you have that presence, because you're an informed man, let me put that in that way. And I loved your response, right? Like it's because you choose to be heard. There's not hearing you, right? So just want to get into how dads can support their partners in that way, just with their voice, right? With their informed voice. Because our listeners, right now, most of our listeners right now are women, but that they can start having these conversations or saying, "Hey, honey, listen to this," because I think that's where it begins, right? Like we need to get that information into the hands of the couples that are going through these journeys together.
Beautiful question. I think the easiest way to answer that question would be with the question: how do you advocate for something that you do not understand fully? And so the answer is it's advocation requires education of the subject matter you're advocating for. You have to know that person, that thing, that item, in this case, the birthing person. You have to understand not just who they are, what they want, what they don't want, which requires you to educate yourself, right? Hey, so how do you feel about student doctors being in the room when you deliver? Oh, you don't want that. Cool. Now I know. And to start to have those conversations, because if you do not know the person, then your advocacy is going to look like you're taking somebody's voice, not amplifying their voice.
Ooh, I
And
love
so
that. Yeah.
the education piece is key. You have to know who you're advocating for.
Yeah, and that's a great example too, because luckily I never had to experience like students in the room with any of my births, but I was just actually unfortunately in the hospital with my son
Mm.
last week. He had some breathing issues, and yeah, when I tell you like 8 people came through the door and like they gave a presentation, the one student doctor had to give a presentation of what was going on with my son and what was the possible
Mhm.
scenarios and the possible protocols and this and that. And it's like it wasn't a big deal because, he was having breathing issues, I was fully, let's say, clothed. Like I wasn't in labor. I wasn't in like the space to like where I minded, right? But I could only imagine if I was a woman who was, or a birthing person who was in labor, in pain, contracting, not knowing what's going on, feeling that uncertainty, like in my reptilian brain, I don't want like a classroom, right? And that's like one very small example, right? But it'll just happen if you don't know about it. But no, I love that piece of it, and I think a lot of the times there's two cases, and you work with fathers way more than I do, so you can correct me if I'm wrong, but from what I hear, the partner is either bringing in their own fear
Hmm.
to the room because they don't know, right? They don't know what they don't know. And then if the doctor then is saying one thing, they're just like fearfully replying and
Hmm.
saying, "Okay, let's go." And then it's almost not being on
Exactly.
team mom, or aware of what the partner wants, but they don't know how to get it across
Hmm.
appropriately with education behind their I don't want to say argument, but their advocacy, right?
Hmm.
Like so then they seem either over combative or under combative or like not combative in a bad way, but you get what I'm saying, right? So like how do we then solve for those two scenarios? Like how can, and again, most of the listeners are going to be women, so if you were at like talking to a pregnant mom or someone who is going to be that person who can't have that voice in those moments, what would you kind of give them the tools to have that conversation with their partner?
This is where understanding your strengths and weaknesses come into play. I'll answer your question with a story.
Okay.
My wife, when I met her, was a conscious parent. I was very much an authoritative. There it is, authoritative parent, where I was the whip. Like, we're gonna get it done, or you gonna hear my mouth. And so, over the time, I had to learn as a husband. My biggest strength in parenting was relying on my wife. Her consciousness made things better. My yelling made it worse. Understanding your strengths mean if I can't help you understand this, I have to point you in a way or find a resource that will do the legwork that I can't do. Sometimes, in most cases, men hear better from other men.
Mm-hmm.
It's to a detriment because I have a statement in my website and everything. I say I listen to black women because black women have literally given me everything I needed for dad. So I listen to black women, I get it. But a lot of men only hear from men.
Mm-hmm.
And so what that means is that I have to find a resource that can speak the language to my partner to help him understand what I need advocacy in. So I don't have to take on the emotional burden, the emotional fatigue, the spiritual fatigue, or sometimes physical fatigue of having to try my hardest to get you to understand what I need you to understand when it comes to advocating for me.
Yeah, no, and that makes so much sense, right? Because just the mental load, I can
Mhm.
speak from experience, the mental load of a woman is just innately more, right, than the mental load of a man. Usually the physical load is more on the man,
Mhm.
right? The mental load, running the house, doing all the things, paying the bills or just managing it all, right? So that doesn't stop in pregnancy. That doesn't stop in birth, realistically, right? Postpartum, it's like, oh my gosh, it's all on me to do all these things and make sure everyone knows their place and knows their information.
Mhm.
So I love that what you said, like taking that off, like that burden off of the woman, because yeah, I mean, I can't put terms appropriately together sometimes to like explain to my husband that how
Mhm.
I need and what I need. But, shameless plug, right? Like that's what you're here for.
But bigger picture, the equivalent of being pregnant is 40 hours of work a week. So a full-time working schedule is 40 hours a week. Being pregnant is the equivalent of working 40 hours a week by itself. So I'm not just working 40 hours a week being pregnant and birthing and growing this human. I'm also working 40 hours a week actually working. I have a job. We have other kids sometimes. I have other
Hmm.
responsibilities. So now my 40 turns into 80, and then you want me and expect me to educate you on how to show up for me. That's a whole nother 90 hours of labor,
Right.
mental labor on
Right.
top of everything else. It's not meant for you all to do.
Right. No, I love that.
So you got to tap people in who do this work so that you can just sit back and do the job you're meant to do, which is birthing the baby properly.
Yeah.
Healthily, best way possible.
And I will tell you, my doulas that I had for my first birth and my doula that I've had, subsequently for all of my births, she was amazing at that, right? Where she took the burden off of me having to explain things to him. She
Mhm,
explained things to both of us. She even talked to him. I know not all doulas do that or have that
mhm,
perspective. She was one of four and the only girl, so she had brothers, so she knew how to talk to
mhm,
men in a way that where they got it, right? That just her innate nature. But it's so important that men are doing this work too. And I can go back to our first conversation a couple months ago where I was like, men in birth work make me a little skeptical because there are men out there, just, all good and bad, right? There's all
mhm,
good and bad women, but like there are men out there that are then trying to like be doulas to the birthing person because they have some weird kink, which I don't kink shame, but like there's a time and place for it, right? Like
mhm, mhm,
genuine consent. You see
mhm,
in these doula groups all the time these scammers that are in there and stuff. But that aside, there is such an important role for men like you. There is such an important role for the partners to take and step into. There's such an important movement, right? We talked about it this earlier, like this movement that needs to happen
mhm.
because the maternal health outcomes in this country are
Also,
quite
yeah.
frankly shit. Like, yeah. And luckily we were on the call and, we're hearing from dads in the UK and in Africa and other continents doing work as well, but noticing, and Scott said, there are no dad doulas in the UK right now. So like bringing that awareness and amplifying it across the entire world is so important because there's people birthing all over the place, right? So, Josh, I'm really curious, and I'm sure our listeners are as well. How did you find yourself doing this work, right? Like, I always say, a lot of our perinatal professionals, whether it be doula, mental health therapist, like, there's a personal story usually that precedes the work that we're doing.
Mhm.
So, I would love to share yours.
Well, mine is different. I found myself in this work by happenstance. I was always into fatherhood work before. So let me give you the full story. So grew up born in Newark, New Jersey, adopted, moved to Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I stayed here my whole life. Joined the Army out of Milwaukee, did 10 and a half years as a surgical tech in Milwaukee, or in the Army, I'm sorry. After getting out the Army, I stayed doing surgery for a few years until burnout happened. Switched to a retail sale at Verizon. Weird, I know, has nothing to do with anything I do now, but it taught me how to talk to people. Got burned out of Verizon and went back to surgery. COVID hits,
Mm-hmm.
and I said, "Oh, surgical techs now are just used to watch people die. I don't want that. I'm tired." And so a friend of mine said, "Well, hey, look at this CHW thing." So CHW, for y'all who don't know, is a certified community health worker. So I'm a certified community health worker. And all that really means is my job is finding resources for the people to help them navigate where they are. And so because of that, I became certified and was doing that work with Children's Hospital here in Wisconsin. And at the same time, I was pregnant. And so my wife gets pregnant. It's the heart of COVID. And I am working at a hospital, not wanting my wife to deliver at a hospital.
Mm-hmm.
I said, "Baby, I don't want you nowhere near COVID. We're going to do it at the house. We'll figure it out." Luckily, we owned our home, so we didn't have to ask a landlord or anything. And we um, found a doula and midwife, who my wife was already friends with in community. Amazing people. Shout out to Leanne and Sasha. And they were at the house every week and a half for 2+ hours, checking on her, talking to her, cry sessions, all the things. I'm in the corner looking like, yo, that's so dope. And no one has given me any information on how to support my wife after they leave. No one has told me anything. I said, okay. So I go to Barnes and Noble, go to bookstores. I go to Buy It Again Books. I go to all these bookstores, and where's your fatherhood book section? I kid you not, Josh, we don't have one. So no books for fatherhood at all. No books on fatherhood, how to be a father, fathering 101, dummies, nothing.
Right.
Like nothing. No, Josh, we have nothing. Okay, I go to the library. Obviously, the library has to have fathering books. Hey, do you guys have any books for fathering by Black or brown artists? No. Okay, just give me a fathering book then. Anything like Fathers 101,
Give me
dummies,
the Dr. Seuss version of dads. Right.
anything.
Right.
The only thing we have is his father resource book with his father's affirmations on how to be a good father through trauma. I said, but wait, why does everything have to be a deficit mindset when it comes to fatherhood?
Yeah.
Okay, didn't like that. So I left and I went home. And when I got home, guess who's at my house? The midwife and the doula talking to my wife for 3 more hours. And I said, I don't mean no harm. Can I just vent for 30 seconds and I'll leave y'all to it? Yeah, go ahead, Josh. I said, this is garbage. And they just looked at me like, what do you mean? How is all the resources available for my wife, who's a married, kept woman who doesn't do anything at the house? I do it all. And I have no resource to tell me, Josh, this is how you keep her safe when I'm gone. And they looked at each other in this moment of, aha, and looked at me and said, well, then, Josh, you have to create it. I was like, what? They're like, you have to create it. So Leanne the doula is my doula preceptor. So she taught
Okay.
me how to be a doula. And
Yeah.
then I went and got certified afterwards. Um, and then I've been doing dad doula now for 5 years. So Harlem's 5. I've been doing this 5 years.
Yeah. Well, COVID 5 years ago.
Yes, yeah. So this whole still COVID. It sounds so weird to say COVID was that long ago. I feel
I
like
know.
COVID is still here, but anyway.
Yeah. Well, the trauma of it, right?
So started dad doula virtually because I'm in the Midwest. So where I am, until you make it somewhere else, Milwaukee doesn't notice you.
Hmm.
So my first client was Georgia. Second client was Virginia. Third client was New York. Fourth client was Canada. And then we started to get our name out there everywhere.
Hmm.
And then Milwaukee recognized us in 2024.
Wow. Wow. But I know
You,
you're doing some really awesome work with now, like the Department of Health and
yes,
different
yes.
like businesses in Milwaukee.
Our newest, and I'm gonna cross my fingers and say our newest partner that I'm hoping to be able to announce in the next 6 months or so will be the Department of Defense.
Very cool.
If we can get the Army, it's a big
Yeah.
deal. And
Yeah,
so
it's huge.
we are working to do the work so that people can see that fathers don't need much. What they need is a
Yeah.
space for somebody who knows what they're doing to say, hey, here's your cheat sheet and here's your emotional regulation. Use both together.
Yeah, amazing. Well, and I know, we started this conversation talking about the Impact Alliance and for those of you listening, you've definitely heard me talk about the PRC as the village for the villagers, right? The space for the professionals. The Impact Alliance is going to be a space for men and partners like Josh who are doing this work, but really to support them amplify their voices, connect them to perinatal professionals so that they can share the resource that he has with
Mhm,
their clients. And not just him, but other fathers doing this work
mhm,
in different capacities, whether it be because they lost their wife or if they lost a child or they mental health space, right? Postpartum mental health, and the whole spectrum of it. So we are going to be curating then a community for the dads, for the fathers that Josh and these other founding fathers that we're calling them support. And it could be a space that, like he said, it's a community that is built for dads, free for them to join and connect with each other, to connect with the resources, and then ultimately be a space where they can get educated, and just have that vulnerable space, to do what they need to do to process all the things.
Yes, I live by a mantra that most men hate when I say it, but it still rings very true. Anything a broken man touches will break. And so my job is simple. Let me help you fix whatever is broken. Now you got to do the work. I'll walk with you. Let's figure it out, right? And the comment I get all the time, well, I'm not broken. You're broken. You just don't know it. Let's talk about where you're broken, who helped you get broken, and how we're gonna put it back together. Let's have that conversation. So
Yeah.
yes, that's what we do. I'm excited for not just the partnership, but I'm excited for the community we'll foster in the space. It's
Yes,
going to
exactly.
be super intentional, and I love intentional things. So I'm excited.
Yeah, I think, it's a lot of people for the last year, the PRC is only about a year old, and they're like, how did you come up with this? And I'm like, well, it was needed. It was a very obvious thing that to me was like, why isn't this already a thing? And there are versions of it, right? But I could say the same
Mhm.
to, this conversation. It's like, how did it take to 2025
For us
for
to
this to
recognize
even
how
be,
impossible.
yeah. Yeah. And I think what it comes down to too is like speaking of the village, right? We're speaking of the village here, and we've lost the village in just a couple generations. My co-host Dawn says this all the time. In just a couple generations, we lost that crucial component, right? Years and hundreds and years ago, it was default that
Mhm,
you had a community, you had neighbors. We didn't have the technology or the hospital systems or all the things that we have now.
mhm,
And it was just defaulted that the women had the community and the men had the community, and they were different, but they had each other, right? All the men did all the things together, all the women did all the things together, and they had their space. So partners necessarily didn't have to be the one to
mhm.
do all the things for the mom.
Right.
Now, most of the time, it's just husband and wife or partner walking this journey by themselves, trying to figure it out. Like, yeah, maybe they have their parents to support, but they don't even know
Mhm,
how to support in those ways, or so there's not that extended community, that extended village. So that's, I think, where the brokenness has happened, right? Because
mhm.
now it's two people who don't have the support, don't have the education, or walking it themselves, just trying to like tread water and not drown in all of it. And the recognition of that then is okay, well, we need to build that community back for moms. So I think we've been walking that uphill a little bit, in the last 10 years or so.
Mhm.
And now finally full circle is coming where it's like, okay, well, if we're doing this for moms, we need to reconstruct the community for dads too. And then I think, this is a very hopeful, hopeful, optimistic view, is that once now we do have these two reset communities in place, then it'll be even better than it was before in those, village times, because now we do have the technology. Now we do have the internet to connect us all over the place. We like it looks so different now, and it could be so much more expansive, so much better. And it's just a matter of getting to that point, right?
I'm looking forward to the point where we have our separate communities, but then we also have a joint one.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm looking forward to the point where there's delegates of
Yeah.
both sides
Yeah.
that come together and say, okay, this is what we're talking. Okay, okay, let's align. Let's
Yeah.
align these conversations. Let's align our efforts to really, really, and I think you're building it with impact. Right, where you have the specialists of the fields in one space. Say, okay, this is what we teach, is what y'all teach. Let's combine. Let's make
Exactly.
sure we are sharpening each other, enforcing the movement for each other. Because I think the only way we're going to fix maternal health is by changing what maternal health stands for. I have a shirt that I made a couple years back out of inspiration, and it says, maternal health is not a woman's issue.
No, it's not.
Maternal health is an attack on families. And the moment we really get behind that understanding is yes, women are the medium they're using to kill families. Because if I kill what births the family, I kill the family. As much as men love ourselves, we cannot birth babies. It can never happen. If we kill women, families stop. That is also why Roe v. Wade was enacted, so that you can't stop women from killing unwanted babies because they didn't want these babies. It's all a thing. It all goes together. And so we have to stop making maternal health a woman focused event or a movement and make it a family focused movement. It has to change.
Yeah.
The moment we do that, they're gonna have to listen to us then. They're gonna have to.
Yeah, I mean, if you guys listen to us on a regular, we talk about, we're not anti-doctor, but we're anti-system and we're
Yes.
kind of that's what you're saying too, Josh, like the system, the agenda, the movement behind, creating this business
Mm-hmm.
essentially that leaves moms and birthing people dead or their children dead or or traumatized through the process, and regardless of not the people that are the ones doing it but the system that they were bred from, right?
Yes. Yes.
That's the problem. And we can talk about cultures, we can talk about racism and bias and
Mm-hmm.
all of that stuff, but really it comes down to, like you said, it's the attack on the family. And I
Yes.
mean, look at just again, I mean, I'm 35 years old and I feel like I've lived so many lifetimes because I am right on that cusp of like old school versus like all the new technology and new
Mm-hmm.
way of thinking and terminology and culture and all of that stuff. So I was like conscious enough and old enough to see what it used to be and then learn what it's grown into.
Yes.
And I think, yes, being accepting of the non-traditional family unit
Mm-hmm.
is important, but the key there is family, right? So regardless of like what you identify with, who you identify with, how you choose to move forward with a family is not that it's not relevant, but the issues remain the same, right? It's the foundational issues that remain the same. So I think it's really important, and I love that your work includes, men and non-birthing people,
Yes.
right? So because I do know plenty of friends of mine who are women in relationships with women, and they will never be the vessel, but
Mm-hmm.
they're the partner and they're the support, and they're just as lost in that dynamic, because they're not the one going through it.
Yes. Dad doula helped its first same-sex couple 2 years ago, and
Oh,
after that
very.
experience, it was crazy. I had a room full of men, and here comes this woman, and they're like, I said, "Hey, you all, I want to introduce you all to Angela." Angela spoke, said, "Hey, y'all," and they're like, "Hi, why is she here? What's going on?" And I said, "Look, Angela's partner is giving birth." And so Angela, for all intents and purposes, is the non-birthing person that will support this child and that mother. She deserves this criteria to this information too.
Yeah, I think of the Friends episode that I don't know if you're a Friends watcher,
I've
but
seen a couple.
yeah, okay. So there's a Friends episode where like, Ross leaves his ex-wife because she's a lesbian, now she has a partner,
Mm-hmm.
and they're at the Lamaze class, and Carol, who's the actual pregnant person, is running late. So then you
Mm-hmm.
have Susan, who's the partner, the non-birthing person partner, and Ross, who's the father, and they're like flipping a coin to see who's gonna pretend to be Carol, you know? And he's like, obviously it would be you. And she's like, no, I need to know what your role is too. So, like, that in a nutshell, right? If you guys listen to, if you're a big Friends fanatic like I am, that's it right there. Like, it doesn't matter. It's just that your person that is gonna be there to support you.
Bingo. Bingo.
Yeah.
I've had
I was
grandparents,
gonna say
I've had
mothers-in-laws,
aunties and
mothers.
uncles take the class. So it's really weird when you have to, in real time, challenge the nuclear family ideology.
Yeah,
Because the non-birthing people, the men in the room, like, yeah, it's my first child. I'm excited. Yeah, but not all family looks like yours,
right.
and you have to be okay with that, right?
Yeah.
And so we've had a saying. The couple I helped in Dubai, so they live in Dubai. So Dad Duels International. It's everywhere.
So is PRC.
So it's
This
the PRC,
birth
correct?
is international, right? Like it's just
And so the Dubai couple is a strange couple because they are both transgender. So the birthing person is a trans male,
okay. Yeah.
and the non-birthing person is a trans female. And so it's
Okay.
so funny to watch them walk around and get all. So
Yeah.
they had to tell me, like, Josh, like, I'm telling you, you are a breath of fresh air because we often have to defend our family structure. Instead of you just saying, "Who's birthing?" Bet, I got you. And I was like, I don't care what you identify with. It doesn't bother
Yeah.
me,
Right.
nor is it my business. I just want healthy birth outcomes.
Yeah.
If I can
Here's
make
the
sure,
role. Which role are you playing?
yes,
And this is where you support, right?
as long as you don't die on the table and you feel supported supporting the birthing person, I've done my job.
Yeah, exactly.
And so it's really funny and a breath of fresh air to see the work I do when you see the dynamic of the people who I service.
Yes, no, for sure. And, this is video and audio, but if you're listening and not seeing Josh, I will just point out that he is a very tall, very large black man. And if you saw him on the street, ex-army, right? Like, if you saw him on the street, you would not think that he spends most of his time in the birthing room and supporting dads, which is more to that point, right? Like, we all have these like preconceived, right? Our reality is our reality, but we need to erase that, especially in the work that we're doing so importantly to literally like populate the next generation of the world. Like birth isn't going anywhere, families aren't going anywhere. They may look different, but
Yes.
and I know we're on a tangent here, but I think it's really important because we don't always get to address these things. And I know language is really important, but also like hard to shift when you're so used to one terminology or things like that. But I think on the, talking about this, like on the fundamental levels, it's not about any of that.
Mm-mm.
Like you said, it's about the healthy outcomes. It's about non-traumatic birthing experiences. It's about having support, being supported, knowing how to support, and all coming together throughout the entire perinatal journey, which extends beyond, your postpartum is forever. It extends into parenting. You were talking about, right, prom and
Mm-hmm.
school age children and things like that. Our one founding father, Scott, has 7 boys from like age 22 to like 5, I believe. And his oldest is now, a father himself, and
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't stop. So,
It doesn't stop, and if you live long enough to watch the progression, it's worth it to see.
yeah,
It really is. I have all young babies, so I'm not in any rush to become pop, but when it happens,
same.
I'll be very happy to pass on this knowledge to them as well.
And I think that's really important too, right? Like thinking about, like, I have 3 boys, and it's been my goal since my oldest was really young to like do things differently.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It started with just like meditation, emotional intelligence, understanding like he can, feel the feelings, and that toxic masculinity, like not to say, oh, you have to be over emotional, but like you can express yourself,
Yes,
right?
you can.
And then with my second, it was my oldest was supposed to be at his birth, but it was COVID. So he
Mm-hmm.
couldn't, right? But
Mm-hmm.
understanding a little bit more about like the baby and like how it happens and things like that, right? He was 3 at the time. Then both of my boys were at my daughter's birth.
Mm-hmm.
Then all 3 of my kids were at my youngest son's birth. And so they have literally just been immersed and don't know any different than just this like supported birthing space
Yeah.
that like mommy is home doing it, and then there's a baby, and then there's the placenta and the cord. Like I literally have a video of my doula explaining to Dylan, who was I guess 6 at the time, 6 turning 7, like he was like, look, it's the placenta. And she's like, no, the placenta's still in mommy. That's the cord. The
Yes.
placenta's about to come out in a couple minutes because baby just arrived. And like having these conversations with these young boys is gonna change their lives
Yes.
when it's their turn to be the father in the room, right? They're gonna look back and go, oh, this is normal, this is natural, this is how my mom did it, rather than being so closed off to it, not knowing a thing. Now my wife's pregnant. What the fuck do I do? Like, and I'm so, grateful that I figured that out early enough to give them that experience, right? And, my daughter was like my little midwife, my little lactation consultant
Mm-hmm.
when my youngest was born, and I'm so excited for her to go through it and just know differently. But I think that's even more impactful, right? So like the fathers that you're supporting are going to teach their sons to be different.
That's the
And that's
goal. That's the
Major.
that's the goal. So I had a conversation with I can't remember the name of the individual. I'm in the place, but I can't remember the name. And we had a conversation, and he said, "Josh, why do you do this versus anything else?" I said, "What do you mean?" They said, "Why is this the job that you chose?" I said, "Well, number one, I didn't choose this. It chose me.
Chose you. Yep.
Being a doula, being what we do, it chooses us. It's a calling." I think number two, bigger than that, is I'm very selfish in why I do what I do. I'm a father of 3 girls,
Mm.
and I will be damned if any of their 3 partners do not go through my course and understand the expectation of what I place on them with supporting my daughters. Because my wife got that support. Why wouldn't my daughters get all the support? And so it's a very much a selfish ask because I understand what I show my daughters, they will find inside of somebody else.
Yeah.
And
100%.
so I am very, very, very heavy on, especially on the fathers. What are you showing your kids to emulate after?
Mm.
What good do they have to look up in you to say, I want to do that or be like that or have that as I need daddy as my husband.
Yeah.
You can ask my daughters, I'm gonna marry daddy. Yeah, okay. Not really, but I hear you. But he will have pieces of me because I'm showing you what it should look like.
Yeah. Exactly.
And so yes,
And
yes.
that goes both ways, right? We know the other way around it, but
Yeah.
let's start to turn that corner. No, I love it. So Josh, just, as we wrap up here, what do if you can have one thing that the listeners take away from this episode, what would it be?
In the times that we're in right now, support radical family love, radical family togetherness is where we need to be. All the systems we are watching crumble in front of us, all of them. Good, bad, indifferent, doesn't matter. They are all crumbling. The only system that will not crumble is family.
Hmm.
Family is the only system that you cannot physically touch from a governmental level. You can put all the restrictions you want. You can try to name what family looks like. At the end of the day, family doesn't go away. It can't. So, for those who are listening, find your tribe, find your family, and build it radically. I
Mm.
am very radical with my family because we are going to be the rebirth of family for the nation. And I stand on that every day with Dad Doula. It's my job to be an image of what family looks like.
So powerful.
And so, if nothing else, find your tribe, find your family, and bunker down. Because now more than ever, you need family. And family of choice is sometimes a lot better than the family you're born into. Choose your tribe.
Yeah. Love that. All right. Well, if you are listening, I am going to gather all the great information that Josh has to offer you and your partners
Mhm.
to be supported, and it will be in the show notes so you can get in touch with him. I know you do classes kind of all year long, right? Virtually, in person. He's traveling all the time, so no excuse.
No,
The opportunities are there. And if you need anything, feel free to reach out. Josh, as always, it was a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us or me today.
thank you.
And we'll definitely talk soon.
We shall. Love you all.
All
Thank
right.
you.